Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Rivals of Aether 2 at Genesis X2. This is going to be the biggest event that the game has had so far, and you have pretty much every single top player showing up here, at least of all of the NA ones, which is where the majority of top players are in this game, to be fair. So this event is as stacked gets. For your top 16 seats, you're going to have Omar, HKP, Mango, and B-Bats in 13th. Beastly, Plup, Biobird, and Pikmon in 9th. In 7th, you have Void and Fullstream. 5th is ZB and Soul Rifle. 4th is Ion. 3rd is Dango. 2nd is Cakeassault. And projected to win the entire thing is Marlon. And also, it's top 6 because they just play top 6 on Sunday. Really quick, I forgot to mention this at the start, but make sure that you use code ProofBlock. And our first matchup in the winner side is going to be Marlon versus B-Bats. And Marlon's going to be the heavy favorite in pretty much every single set that he enters. And this one is no exception. The main win condition for Fleet is going to be getting some of those early edge guards to mid% edge guards, and I just don't think that's going to happen at all against Marlon. As Raptor, you just have so many tools to make it back to the stage where you're going to need to be very creative as B-Bats in order to actually steal some of those stocks. And while I don't think it's impossible, B-Bats is one of the best Fleet players that we have, I just think it's going to be extremely difficult to do so with Marlon zooming around at 1,000,000 miles per hour. You can't even catch him off stage where you're supposed to be at your best. So I do think that Marlon is going to win that one. Then you're going to have Fullstream versus Beastly, and this one should be really interesting. I'm pretty sure Fullstream plays Zetterburn, but he's never actually entered a Rivals 2 event since the game came out, so we don't really know. But I am going to be giving him the benefit of the doubt here. For anyone that doesn't know who Fullstream was, he was one of the best players in Rivals 1, just mechanically and fundamentally so good at that game, and I'm assuming a lot of that is going to transfer over to this one, so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But I want to give Beastly some credit too, because this guy is amazing, one of the best players in Rivals 2 right now, one of the best Zetterburn players in Rivals 2, and honestly, if it wasn't for Fullstream also playing Zetterburn, I may have gone with Beastly to win this one just because you match up in familiarity, don't know the intricacies of the game as much, but considering that he's playing against his character, he's going to know how to exploit it in the disadvantage state. He's going to know what general stuff Beastly is looking for in the neutral, so I think he should feel more comfortable in that matchup, and familiarity is all you really need for a player like Fullstream to take over a game, so I do think that he is going to win that set, but should be a close one. Then you have Marlon versus Fullstream, and I would definitely expect Marlon to win this one. I think that Zetterburn does pretty decent against Raster. If it had to be considered a winning matchup, I would probably consider it winning for Zetter, though I do think it is an even matchup just because you can absolutely exploit this character off stage. In the neutral, it's a little bit trickier for Raster. You got that base speed of Zetterburn being a little bit better. He dies extremely early as well, but the second that the Fox, or not the Fox, the Lion gets sent off stage, he's just in such a terrible spot. It's really easy for Raster to just rinse and repeat scenarios against him, and I don't think that Marlon is going to have any problems with his flowchart, especially against Zetterburn of all characters, so I do think that Marlon should win that. Next up is going to be Mango versus Ion, and really quickly, just looking at Mango's resume of all of his events in Rivals 2, he's only ever played against one Krag player in a tournament, and he does come out on top, but he doesn't have a lot of experience against this character in bracket, and unless he's just been like grinding against ZB or he's been fighting all these Krags on the ladder, I don't think that Mango would be ready for most top-level Krags, but I can almost guarantee you that he's not ready for this top-level Krag in Ion. Ion is too fast, too aggressive, and too trigger-happy to be beaten by someone that does not know the ins and outs, the full intricacies of this character, because he is just going to be holding forward the entire time, full aggression, and that aggression 90% of the time is just going to be working out. So unless Mango has done a lot of homework that I'm just not giving him the credit for, I think that Ion is definitely going to take that one. Then you're going to have Soul Rifle versus Plup. Honestly, this is the match that I'm looking forward to the most, mainly because I believe in Plup to pull off the upset. I was really impressed by what I saw at Plup at LICS Rivals. He gets a really nice win there over Luck, I believe it was, has a pretty solid run with the Maple, and he wasn't even doing too much crazy rap stuff. I think this is the tournament where we're going to start seeing a little bit of this rap stuff coming in from Plup. Now, Soul Rifle out the gate, very tough opponent, and to his credit, I do think that he has been performing pretty well recently. We didn't see him at LMBM, but he ends up getting, I believe, a 3rd place at Platfight, which is like a super impressive performance, but I just have faith in the theory of Maple and then Plup being the player to actually execute that theory, and I'm putting my eggs in the basket that it's going to be this tournament where it happens. So Plup is going to get that upset over Soul Rifle. Also, I should say, I think matchup-wise, that Maple Forsburn is a pretty even matchup. So they're on even playing ground. It's just player versus player here. And Soul Rifle's a good player, but Plup's a melee legend. So he's getting the credit here. Then you're going to have Ion versus Plup. And I know I said earlier, Mango, if he doesn't have the experience against Crag, then he's not going to be ready for a Crag like Ion. And you can apply that same thing to Plup, except Plup plays Maple instead of Forsburn. I think Crag is pretty well, or not Forsburn, Zetterburn. I think Crag is pretty well against Zetterburn. Could even be winning in that matchup. He gets destroyed by Maple. This is such a miserable matchup for this character. You literally cannot move once you get put in that disadvantage state. So I think that Plup is going to pull off the upset again here over Ion. You got Plup versus Marlon then in the winter semifinals. And I do think that Marlon is going to win that one. Listen, I'm a Plup believer and I'm a Maple believer. The combination of the things is deadly, but I'm also a bit of a realist, and Marlon is absolutely going to be the favorite in that set. Plup is actually going to need to be a robot, just hitting every single tech chase in a row in order to get the dub here, but it's not impossible. He's done greater things. Editing ProofBlock really quickly, I just wanted to point out that Plup actually does have a decent amount of experience against Crag in tournament with a win over BioBurb. I know it's online, but he also gets a loss to Ion there, game 3, and he has another loss to Ion at LCS Rivals. So he has already lost to Ion twice. Yes, I'm aware of that, but he takes a game in both of those sets, and it's been quite some time since they've played, and I'm pretty confident that the Maple tech is outpacing the Crag tech. So I believe in Plup still. Next up is going to be cakeassault against HKP, and I would expect cakeassault to win this one just because he always wins, but also because he's got an amazing record against Switch, who I would regard as the best Zetterburn player right now. He's 9-0 on him in recent games, doing it both with the Fleet and the Forsburn, so he looks comfortable in the matchup, unless HKP has something that no other Zetterburn player has. He just has been waiting to Genesis to show it off. cakeassault should be winning that one with really either character. Then you're going to have Void against BioBurb, and Void has never played against a high-level roster in bracket, but he does have a lot of play against Mr. R. I know he spent a ton of time just grinding against him, so he should be comfortable in the matchup, but I am going to be going with BioBurb to pull off the upset right here. In general, I don't think that Forsburn does particularly well in this matchup. I think it's really easy for Raster to exploit this character off stage. Raster does a really good job of clearing out the smokes as well whenever he needs to, just sending out a slipstream, just getting rid of an entire area. Like, yeah, you might not have your slipstream, but it comes back in like 5 seconds. Is not that big of a deal. And I also think in general, Raster's pretty solid in the neutral against Forsburn. So I do think that Raster, or rather BioBurb, is going to come out on top here, but it should be at least a close set from Void. I think he's definitely going to hold his own, just not win. Then you're going to have cakeassault against BioBurb, and again, it's the exact same thing that I said earlier. I just expect cakeassault to win because he always seems to win, but he also has actually played against BioBurb before, and he has come out on top every single time. Now, you did have BioBurb taking a game at Luminosity Makes Big Moves, which is better than a majority of people at that tournament. So he might give cakeassault a run for his money, but probably not. Next up is going to be Stango versus Omar, and I do expect Stango to win this one simply just because he has a 2-0 record on Nog, and I'm aware that Nog and Omar are not the same player, and both of those wins on Nog did come at online events, but he looks good against the Elephant in the past. He should look good against the Elephant here. Between his two characters, I think the Crag is more likely to come out just because Zetterburn can get walled off a lot easier in that advantage state against Locks on just one hit, and it could all go wrong, and that could definitely happen against Crag. You're comboing a big body, but I do think it's easier for Crag to kind of hold his own, have a little bit more defensive options, and get back to the stage somewhat consistently, unlike Zetterburn, who I do think struggles in that aspect in the matchup. But also in the neutral, Zetterburn runs over Loxodon on stage, just super overwhelming. So I honestly think both of Stango's character choices could get the win over Omar, but it's likely going to be the Crag. At least I think it is going to be the Crag. Speaking of Crag, you're going to have ZB versus Pikmon, and you only have Pikmon playing against, I think Bunthers is the best Crag player he's played against in tournament, and Bunthers is a very good Crag player. I'm not trying to discredit him, and you do have Pikmon coming out on top, but it doesn't give me enough confidence to pick him over ZB. I think in general, Forsburn Crag is probably an even matchup, but if I had to give it to one character, I would give it to Crag just because you are able to exploit Forsburn in the disadvantage state. And you feel the speed of Forsburn really bad in this matchup. What I mean by that is Forsburn not that fast, Crag faster than Forsburn in this matchup. At least it feels that way. He actually is able to outpace you, and it can feel so overwhelming as the Forsburn player. So unless Pikmon is able to consistently lock ZB down, which is like the last Crag player in the world that you're able to lock down, I don't think he's going to be able to get the win here. Then you're going to have Stango versus ZB. Now, it could be a Crag Ditto. It could just be Zetterburn against Crag. I think what's most likely is just you have Zetterburn against Krag, because if you look at the times that Stango and ZB have played, you actually are going to have Stango winning their first set in the Krag Ditto. You have 2 online sets that you're going to have ZB winning also in the Krag Ditto, and then most recently, you're going to have Stango coming out on top with a 3-0, not in the Krag Ditto, just Zetterburn against Krag, and I do think that Zetterburn definitely wins the matchup against Krag. So it absolutely makes sense that Stango would not go the Ditto here. And also, he can just go the Ditto if the Zetterburn doesn't end up working out. But if it is the Ditto, I do favor ZB more so just because he's really, really fast. I know that's all I say about ZB, but it's true. You should definitely look into it. But if it's not the Ditto Stango on the Zetterburn, I do think the Zetterburn will get the trick. And then you have cakeassault against Stango. And again, same thing that I've been saying earlier. You just do not bet against cakeassault, especially when he has a 6-0 record against like a top 5 player in the world. So yeah, I think cakeassault's going to get through winner's side. And we don't do the loser side of the bracket just because the majority of these matchups are not going to happen. But I still want to go over the 2 players that I think are going to top 6 through the loser side. And I think those players are going to be ZB and Ion, the 2 top Krags. You're going to have ZB just getting through this normal part of the bracket. I do think he loses Stango against the Zetterburn. And hopefully for him, this isn't Plup. As I said, I think Plup gets this upset over Soul Rifle. So likely, or I guess not likely, but what I think is going to happen is this is going to be Soul Rifle or Mango, and I would favor in both of those matchups. As I said earlier, I think Forest Burn doesn't do amazing against Krag, slightly in Krag's favor, and I don't think that Mango would do amazing against the top-level Krags as it stands right now. And then he's either going to have most likely Void, Beastly, B-Bats, or BioBurb, because I do think that BioBurb is going to take the upset here over Void. And if it is BioBurb, then you have ZB with a winning record on BioBurb, even though I do think that matchup is in Rastard's favor, so I think that's a decent sign. You do have Beastly being pretty good against Krag, but I would expect ZB to come out on top. You could have B-Bats also being a threat just because Fleet is still a really difficult matchup for Krag, even after the nerfs. I mean, both characters ended up getting nerfed. So basically what I'm trying to say here is you have 4 tricky opponents for ZB, but I think he should be favored against every single one of them. The hardest one is definitely going to be BioBurb if he ends up getting it. And one of these Krag players, I'm pretty certain, is going to have to fight off against BioBurb, because on the other side of the bracket, you are going to have Ion. And I think Ion is going to pop into the loser side right around here, because as I said, I think Plup is going to upset him in the winner side. And then he's going to have either likely Pikmon or Omar. I would expect him to win both of those sets. And then you have either Full Stream or Void or BioBurb, same situation again. And if it's Full Stream, I don't really know what to think, if I'm being honest, just because I've never seen him play against a top level Krag. I'm just going to give Ion the benefit of the doubt, though, going with what I've seen, and I've seen Ion look very impressive. But we've also seen Ion and Void play against each other a couple of times, and you have them going back and forth. But most importantly for Ion, you are going to have him winning their most recent encounter. So if this is Void, I do think that Ion should still come out on the top. And really, if it's any of these opponents for both of the Krag players, I just think they're favored against every single one of them. There's just like a varying amount of success that they will have. So for Ion, I think his toughest opponent is probably going to be Void or Full Stream. And for ZB, I think his toughest opponent is likely going to be BioBurb. But if B-Bats makes a run, then they could absolutely give him some trouble too. So we've got our top 6. This graphic was made by the lovely Memorization. Their link will be down below, so be sure to check them out and sub while you're down there. But starting off with our winners finals matchup of Marlon versus cakeassault, what we have all been waiting to see. And first things first, not a great matchup for cakeassault. I think that Raster does really well into Forest Burn, as I'm pretty sure I talked about earlier, so I won't again. But even without the matchup, it was a dead even matchup. Even if Marlon's character was losing in the matchup, I would just always bet on Marlon here. From what I saw at Frosty Fausting, he just looks like the best player in the world. I need to see cakeassault and Marlon actually play before I'm very confident saying that he is the best player in the world, just because cakeassault has literally not lost a set in Rivals since the game has come out. But Marlon just looks so fluid. And to Marlon's credit, he also has not lost a set since the game has came out. So we have 2 undefeated champions in the winners finals. Should be a giga banger of a set, but I do think that Marlon should come out on top. In the loser side, you're going to have Stango versus Ion as one of our first ones. And Stango and Ion have played against each other 3 times, with Ion winning a majority of them. But you also have all of those sets taking place online, and one of them, or 2 of them, in fact, happening within the same tournament. So it's not like the best frame of reference on how these guys will actually face off against each other. And I am going to be going actually with Stango to win this one. And it's for the same reasons earlier that I was talking about with Stango and ZB. I just think that Stango is going to be able to bring out his Zetterbird and be able to get the winner. I didn't really mention this when I was talking about Stango and ZB, but the fact that Stango himself has a Crag and a very high level Crag in contention for the best Crag in the world means that he is able to exploit this character. He knows what Crag is looking for in recovery. He knows how this character's flowcharts works, and he also knows what Crag is looking for in the advantage states. And because of this, I think it's going to be easier for him to navigate around in the neutral with that Zetterburn and get the dub. So for the same reasons that I think Stango would be Ion or ZB, I also think he will be Ion. Then you have Plup versus ZB, and I kind of alluded to this. They are projected to play in the loser side of the bracket, but it's actually going to be in the loser side of the bracket in the top 6 because Plup has to get that upset over Soul Rifle. Has to go on a little bit of a winner's run first, but they'll get their match eventually, and I do think that Plup is going to take the upset here for the exact same reasons that I gave over Ion. I'm putting my faith in Plup in this tournament, and Crag Maple is a miserable matchup, so I didn't even need that much faith to believe in him to win it, to be honest. Next up is going to be Plup versus Stango, and it's almost assuredly going to be the Zetterburn in this matchup. I'd be very shocked if the Crag came out. Not impossible, I guess, because Zetterburn also doesn't do amazing into Maple, but in contrast, I mean, you're living in paradise. You definitely have to worry about those forward airs off stage. They can absolutely be lethal, and I also feel like that normal style that Zetterburn likes to play, where he's pressuring his opponents, smothering them, keeping them in shield, just doesn't work at all against Maple. You never find this character in shield. She's always moving around the map, wave dashing from platform to platform, using side B and down B as movement tools. So I think it's going to be really difficult for Stango to actually pinpoint Plup and get that pressure against him. And because of that, I do think that Plup is going to get the win here. I mean, we believed in him up until this point. Why would we lose faith now? But speaking of losing faith, I'm going to, because I do think that cakeassault will get the win here. And I'm just going to be extremely blunt. There was never a world where you could convince me to predict anyone but cakeassault and Marlon as the top 2 of this. They are just clearly the best 2 players in the world. So really, congrats to Plup for actually winning Rivals 2 of people that were eligible, of normal human beings that were eligible to win the event. Plup is actually going to be your big winner. But now we have the gods facing off in the grand finals, Marlon versus cakeassault. And I think we'll see a repeat of the winners finals with Marlon coming out on top. And with that, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. This has been absolutely unreal. As like, this is the first ever prediction that I've done for Rivals of Aether 2. I don't know the game nearly as well as I know Smash Ultimate, but hey, we're getting here. It's all a process. Let me know if there's anything I left out, got wrong, or if you want to say hi, leave a comment down below. And with that, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.